So I found my 1/8 inch flat plate and I found my 1/4 inch flat plate. I was just thinking, then I found this piece actually. It looks to be about like a 5 or 6 by 3 inch piece of rec tubing, just kind of a shorty, about 1 foot long, and it's a 3/16 wall thickness. So I figured, what the hell, matches the thickness of the original flange perfectly. So we'll just go ahead and stick with the 3/16 inch material. So all I gotta do is just set this on here like this and trace out the perimeter of the flange, mark the 2 mounting locations, and then I'll drill a hole in the center for the exhaust to pass through. So this is what I'm going to use to make my new little flange, and so I'll get marking on it and then I'll start cutting it out. Okay, so I got the holes drilled in the new exhaust flange that's going to get bolted to the engine, and I've mentioned this in probably at least a couple videos I made. I don't know if I've mentioned this in any of the motorized bike videos, but when you're making a piece that's real small like this one, you can see, I mean, it's really only about 2 inches by 1.5 inches. It's really best to go ahead and drill your holes while it's still a large piece like this. It's just a lot easier to clamp. It's much easier to clamp down this large piece than it is to try and clamp a little piece like this and drill these holes. You know, you only can clamp down on so much of it, and the drill bit can bite in there and just spin the whole thing. So it really makes your life a lot easier if you drill your holes first while your small piece is still a part of a much larger piece, and then come in and cut it out later. So anyway, I've got the 2 mounting holes drilled. I've got the center hole for the exhaust to pass through. I've got that drilled out to 3/4 inch. And I've got my little muffler right here. And I'm going to measure the diameter of the pipe. And that's over 3/4 inch. So that'd be roughly like 11/16, something like that. So like I said, this is only 3/4 inch hole. So I'm actually going to use my electric die grinder and a little carbide bit to enlarge this hole as I need it, because this muffler might actually be mounted sort of at an angle like this, and while this may be 11/16 straight across, if you cut it at an angle, the opening there, this distance is greater than 11/16. So if this hole might need to be an oval shape instead of a perfect circle. So anyway, I'll deal with that when I get to it. So now I'm ready to cut out my exhaust flange. Alright, so I got the piece cut out. I had to use the cutting disc on the grinder, so we got a lot of sharp angles there. So I'm just going to clamp it again to this piece of rec tube, and then smooth it out with the flap wheel and get the shape right. Alright, here's the exhaust flange. I guess probably 90% finished. Like I said, I'm going to manipulate the center exhaust port hole as I need to with my electric die grinder. So now we'll go test it and see how it fits on the engine. Alright, it fits on the engine great. It's not the prettiest looking flange. I might, once I get things welded up, might grind on it a little bit more to make it a little prettier. But for right now, we're ready to start cutting up our little muffler assembly and get that mounted up on here. Okay, I got my little muffler cut down to where I want it. You can see the 2 little marks on there, as well as the 2 little marks on the flange. When I was holding it up to the bike, when I had this mounted on the bike, I positioned it and made those 2 little marks, so now I can weld it off the bike because the gas tank is still on there and I don't want to weld around the fuel tank. So anyway, this piece is ready to get welded. So let me go grab the welder and I'll get started.